A pro-Israel activist group says it has a deportation list.
When we create our dossiers and our reports, we hand them over, we make recommendations.
That's Raskalik. He is the former executive director of Beitar. The group says it has sent hundreds of names of student protesters to the Trump administration.
Beitar US is the American branch of a Zionist youth movement founded in 1923. They've been around for decades, but recently they've taken on a new role, helping the Trump administration crack down on pro-Palestinian activism. They put together a list of protesters and sent it to Trump officials. That list is now being used to deport international students involved in campus demonstrations. Mahmoud Khalil, a legal US resident and a Columbia University student, was on that list, and also the Turkish student who was detained in Boston. ICE detained them after Beitar US flagged their names, and the group publicly celebrated their arrest, warning many more could follow. The Anti-Defamation League, which was created to combat anti-Semitism, has labeled Beitar US an extremist group.
Beitar is not the only group working to expose the identities of some student protesters. Canary Mission has a website profiling students it says have participated in pro-Palestinian demonstrations. At least 3 of the international students detained so far were featured on Canary Mission's website.
Now, the Canary Mission is a website that posts pro-Palestinian professors and students from North American campuses and posts their information.
It's a tool for ICE, and they're doxing protesters, event organizers.
This is the head of Canary Mission, who tried to erase himself from the internet, but this is his face. Spread it far and wide. And the Canary Mission org chart has been updated with his face.
Now, Beitar and Canary Mission say that they are relying on publicly available information, social media profiles, LinkedIn pages, and photos that are already on the internet. Legal experts say that's not so much the problem. The problem is whether the information is being shared and used by the government to police people's right to free speech.
So I was reading the lawsuit today from Yunsu's lawyers, and they actually say that there are 3 big organizations that are targeting people. The first one you guys already know about, that is Canary Mission. The other 2 organizations listed are something called the Middle East Forum, and I think one of the most disgusting is the Beitar USA, which actually has a deport list. I don't understand how hate groups like this are allowed to exist.
Did you know there are multiple pro-Israel, pro-Zionist organizations that claim they're helping? One such group is called Beitar, and even many pro-Israel groups, such as the Anti-Defamation League, consider it an extremist hate group. And it's taking credit for this: the arrest of Turkish PhD student Rumeysa Öztürk, who now Beitar openly advocates for violence against Palestinians, including a demand for the Israeli military to kill more babies in Gaza. And it's repeatedly advocated violence against Arabs and the expulsion of Palestinians from their land. And its members, who are required to swear an oath when they join, also routinely threaten other Jewish people on social media. Where did this group come from? It was founded in 1923 to advocate for the establishment of a Jewish religious state through violence. It has links to the Carnism ideology, which in Israel is labeled ultra-right-wing and fascist.
Jewish influencers basically supporting Kahanism, and Rav Kahana, may his memory forever be blotted out from Am Yisrael. Kahanism is a movement in the underbelly, the guts, the dreck of the country. It is the worst of Israeli society are living in Kahanist fantasies and think the Rav Kahana was right, that thinks he was some kind of hero. The dreck of the dreck. Now, people in the US who don't understand this, out here supporting Kahana without even understanding what that means. This irony is that the same people, the core of their Hasbara narrative, the core of their whole shtick, is that Israel is the representative of Western civilization in the Middle East, and it is holding off the Islamicist barbarians, and Israel has women's rights and gay rights, and yet Kahana and his vision for Israel and his supporters in Israel, they sanctify violence, they sanctify supremacy, they have a death cult, they sanctify a patriarchal, oppressive society that has no place for LGBTQ Jews or secular people or women who are not religious.
After the October 7 attacks, Beta revived its US faction. In a statement to Al Jazeera, a Beta spokesperson confirmed that it had provided hundreds of names to the Trump administration of visa holders and naturalized Middle Easterners and foreigners who, the group claims, without offering any evidence, support US designated terrorist organizations. Despite its open support and encouragement for the killing and persecution of Palestinians, Beta is now a registered non-profit in the United States. It's an organization that has raised some red flags for observers. Abed Ayoub, the executive director of the American Arab Anti-Discrimination Committee, told Al Jazeera, Beta US is acting as a non-profit organization, but they're engaged in aggressive forms of harassment going after First Amendment rights. And that's the right to free speech.
That are working for a dozen national ICC partner organizations like Aipac and Hatzara Fellowships and Stand With Us, and Hillel and Chabad and Aipac.
Stand With Us also had what she described as a covert group which would slander people as anti-Semites. Amanda recalled how Stand With Us was involved at her university. Students who criticized Israel's treatment of Palestinians were routinely accused of anti-Semitism.
We have seen escalating attempts by the Trump administration to use the full force of the federal government to criminalize constitutionally protected protests against Israel's conduct of the war on Gaza. First, it was the kidnapping and disappearing of a legal permanent resident married to an American citizen for his protected First Amendment activity, as we saw with recent Columbia grad student Mahmoud Khalil. Just today, a pro-Israel group called for an official Department of Justice investigation into a children's content creator, many of you may know, Ms. Rachel, for, quote, spreading Hamas propaganda.
That there's a group called Stop Anti-Semitism that is accusing Miss Rachel of having transformed her platform into a, quote, amplifier of Hamas propaganda. This is the post that they're citing as anti-Semitic, which the message here is basically stop bombing babies. They're also calling on Attorney General Pam Bondi to investigate Miss Rachel for being a foreign asset or whatever. But let's turn the table here, shall we, and find out who exactly is funding Stop Anti-Semitism. This next part actually took me a little while because they've actually done a pretty good job of hiding who is behind that group, meaning they don't have to file any paperwork with the IRS. On their Wikipedia page, it just says that they are a privately funded American advocacy group focused on combating anti-Semitism by exposing individuals perceived by the group as anti-Semitic. The group was founded by this lady named Leora Rez, who is a refugee from the former Soviet Union. Remember her name? We'll get back to her in a second. There's also this article from the Washington Post that reports that the Milstein Family Foundation lists Stop Anti-Semitism as a supported organization on their website. And Adam Milstein is Israeli, served in the IDF, and then moved to America in 1981. But yeah, that's kind of all that's been reported about this organization. That's all we knew up until now. Remember when I said Stop Anti-Semitism doesn't file any paperwork with the IRS? Well, I did a bunch more digging and I found this fundraising campaign for Stop Anti-Semitism. And if we scroll to the bottom here, you'll see an organization called the Morona Leadership Foundation. That is their fiscal sponsor. And as you can see here, it is a 501c3 public charity. So I pulled up the 990 for the Morona Leadership Foundation. And lo and behold, listed as their top officer, Leora Rez. Same lady as before. And their top funder is an organization called the Impact Forum Foundation, which is a, quote, exclusive pro-Israel network of philanthropists to fight anti-Semitism, strengthen the state of Israel, and advance the U.S.-Israel alliance, a super American agenda. We find out that the Morona Family Foundation is tied to a bunch of other NGOs, which I'll read off for you, just a few of these for your sampling, such as the Central Fund of Israel, Israel 21C, the PFE Israel Endowment Fund, Students Supporting Israel, Talk Israel. Like, what the heck is going on here?
And for any of you who thinks Israel's not making this decision,
come on. The House Committee on Education calls American students terrorists. If the House of Representatives is supposed to represent all Americans, why does the House Committee on Education post like it's been written by the Israeli lobby?